As of today, 17 states have enacted legislation that could stymie voting rights, with Texas on track to becoming the 18th, sparking an exodus of state House Democrats to the nation's capital to deny state Republicans the quorum needed to turn this legislation into law. A federal voting rights bill needs to pass, but Senate Democrats simply don't have the numbers, as evidenced by Democratic Senator Joe Manchin, who's against reforming the filibuster rule to allow the For the People Act to pass with a simple majority, and who was hobnobbing at a fundraiser hosted by several Republican donors in Texas. That's why this weekend, 1 year after the passing of civil rights, voting rights icon John Lewis, you see right there, Stacey Abrams and Senator Amy Klobuchar are taking the present-day fight back to its original battleground, Georgia. Joining me now is the chair of the Senate Rules Committee, Senator Amy Klobuchar of the great state of Minnesota. Senator Klobuchar, thank you very much for coming back to the Sunday show.
Well, thanks, Jonathan. It's great to be back on.
And so you are coming to us not from Minnesota, but from Georgia. Why are you in Georgia?
I'm chair of the Senate Rules Committee, Jonathan, and we decided, why would we just stay in Washington when all these bills are being enacted all over the country? Over 400 have been introduced to limit people's freedom to vote. And I'm not sure everyone knows this, but over 20 of them, 28 to be exact, have actually become law. And one of them is right here in Georgia, one of the most egregious ones that people have focused a lot on, the not getting water in the long lines. We're going to have a voter testify at our hearing on Monday about what happened to him. But the law is even worse than that. Limits on runoff voting, where, Senator Ossoff, Senator Warnock, incredible senators won their runoff race. Well, now they're saying that runoff can only take 28 days. You can't vote on the weekends before it. That's what the law that was signed into law says. And guess what? You have to register 29 days in advance. So in other words, when there's a runoff, you can't register at any time during the runoff. I'm just giving you a few of the examples. Drop-off box limit, mail-in ballot limit. That is the reason that the legislators in Georgia and our 2 U.S. senators have bravely stood up against this law. And that's why we're bringing the Rules Committee here to hear directly from those that have been involved in trying to stop it.
And so then, Senator, is the hearing tomorrow related to the For the People Act, which has passed the House and is sitting in the Senate, or is it related to the John Lewis Voting Rights Advancement Act, which hasn't even been introduced in the House and therefore not anywhere close to being in the Senate? Or is the hearing really about both those proposed legislation?
Great question. One of the things that the legislators here, just like the Texas legislators have said, is that they are not going to be able to beat this concerted Republican effort across the country on their own. They need salvation from Washington. And that's why we're going to Georgia. It's why Texas came to us. We need basic voting standards in place. Congress can make or alter the laws regarding federal elections. But the John Lewis bill, you are right about this, Jonathan, is another vehicle. Those hearings are starting in the House. That is much more based on making sure we have the record from the committee hearings in the House. So both things matter here. And both things would be very helpful. And this hearing is going to be, I believe the witnesses are going to very firmly ask us to enact federal legislation for basic voting laws for every state in the country.
Senator, I think that when you were talking about the For the People Act, your audio cut out and we missed whatever you said. So if you could briefly repeat what you possibly said about the For the People Act.
Sure. So the For the People Act is a bill that very firmly is rooted in the Constitution. And what it does is that it says that the Constitution says that Congress can make or alter federal election laws. And so what the For the People Act does is simply set out basic national standards for voting. Like you have to have mail-in balloting. You have to have same-day registration. And then it also does something about dark money in our politics, which is a scourge of our politics, and then says politicians should come to Washington to represent the people, not to get perks for themselves. And that's the ethics piece of it. So those are the three prongs. And even the negotiation that we had with Senator Manchin, a lot of the most important parts of the bill remain.
Well, speaking of Senator Manchin, when you hear the name Senator Manchin, it always leads to one word, and that's filibuster. Have a listen to what Senator Manchin had to say on Wednesday on this subject.
Civil rights groups are asking for a carve out for the filibuster for voting rights. Is that something that you could support?
Well, the bottom line is we should be working together on the whole. On basically legislation that protects people's right to vote. That should be something that should be common sense. That people should have a right to vote that should be secured, and it should be accessible, and it should be fair.
Have you gained any Republican support?
We're getting some. We're getting there.
Okay, Senator Klobuchar, two questions on that soundbite. One, Senator Manchin talked about he's getting there in terms of getting Republican support. You're there in the Senate as well. From your vantage point, do you think that there's Republican support for voting rights?
I hope there would be, but I've got to be honest with you here, Jonathan. So far, we've got about 9 provisions. Many of them are actually my bills that are in the For the People Act that are bipartisan. Things like making sure those social media companies who are engaging and allowing for misinformation on the vaccine have disclaimers and disclosures on their political ads. Things like backup paper ballots. There's some significant things in there, but so far we have not picked up bipartisan support for the very important concept of national federal voting rights. We also, in the John Lewis Act, Senator Murkowski has voiced some interest in supporting that, which is really important. So we continue working that route. But the other route, of course, is changing the Senate rules. I think I am a strong supporter of abolishing the filibuster. It's not only stopping us from passing voting rights reform, it's stopping us from passing immigration reform, climate change, police reform. It has become a tool of Mitch McConnell to stop things in their tracks. And so I strongly believe we should abolish it. There's growing support in the caucus. Senator Manchin in the past has talked about a talking filibuster, which would be very helpful. And that would require some changes as well. So I haven't ruled anything out with my colleagues, especially when it comes to voting rights, given how important it is to people like Senator Warnock, Senator Testers, Senator Baldwin, people who are in states that have seen horrific voting laws, voting suppression taking place right now. And so that's why to just hide out and say, you know what, we don't have the votes right now. I'm not doing that. I'm bringing this committee to Georgia for the first time in decades. The Rules Committee of the U.S. Senate is on the road.
All right, Senator Klobuchar, given the answer you just gave, when are you going to move to do something on the filibuster?
Okay, so let me give you the timeline. We have got a close near agreement with Senator Manchin on a different package, which contains so many of the basic voting rights, continuing to finalize that. We've got the House starting the John Lewis Act in the House. Now, here's one thing we haven't talked about. We have the infrastructure packages, the Build Back Better packages that we're working on with the Biden administration. As you know, the first one is bipartisan. The second one will most likely, of course, be a Democratic package through another process called reconciliation. We can also put election infrastructure funding along with housing and childcare and the like, and do what we can to incentivize mail-in balloting. That is no substitution for the People Act, John Lewis Act, but it's just another vehicle where I can push these provisions, and I'm going to use it as much as I possibly can under the law.
Final question and real fast, but you didn't say, excuse me, you didn't say anything about movement on filibuster reform. When are you going to push on that?
Hand in hand. That would be hand in hand with the bill, Jonathan. Because I think you heard what Senator Manchin said right now about where he is on doing it across the board. But I'm looking at some of these specific pieces of legislation. And already with reconciliation, of course, we got different numbers. So I'm being strategic about this, as is Senator Schumer, as is everyone that's interested. But you cannot When you listen to these Georgia voters like Stacey Abrams and I are going to hear this afternoon, Senator Merkley is going to be there as well, the hearing tomorrow, I don't know how you can look at them and say, oh, no, we've got this archaic rule, so we're not going to help you. That cannot be the answer.
Senator Amy Klobuchar of Minnesota, chair of the Senate Rules Committee, thank you very much for coming back to the Sunday Show.
Thank you very much, Jonathan.